wished you could just, like, dive head first?
Into Hyrule. Well, on today's deep dive, we're going right to the heart of...
The Legend of Zelda.
Yeah.
We're talking about the history.
The music, the cultural impact, everything that makes this franchise legendary.
And where better to start than the beginning? We've got excerpts from the game's Wikipedia page.
Okay.
And we'll be covering everything from its debut back in 1986
Oh.
all the way to the latest release.
Okay.
Get ready, because this is more than just nostalgia.
This is about what makes this series last.
Okay, so let's unpack this. This article mentions Shigeru Miyamoto, the mind behind Zelda.
Right.
He drew inspiration from his childhood. And get this, he wasn't glued to a screen. This guy was outside exploring woods and caves near his home.
I mean, talk about real-world inspiration. It's incredible how his experiences shaped Zelda. Think about it. You're a kid.
And you stumble on like a cave entrance, you know?
Yeah.
That thrill, that mystery, that unknown, that's the feeling.
Miyamoto wanted to capture, and he brought that to life with the Lost Woods in the games.
Wow. That sense of exploration, the mystery of it all.
Started with him just wandering around as a kid.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So he went from exploring real woods and caves to making this huge fantasy world.
Exactly. And it goes even further than that. Like the name Zelda itself.
It has a pretty interesting origin.
You'd think it has some deep connection to the lore of the game, right?
And you'd think so, right? But no, it was actually inspired by Zelda Fitzgerald.
What?
The novelist.
Really?
Apparently Miyamoto just liked how her name sounded.
It really shows that inspiration can come from anywhere. It's amazing how a name, just a name, has become synonymous with this huge franchise.
I know, right? Can you imagine, like, calling it anything else?
It's just Zelda. Okay, so we've got this world, Hyrule, with Hylians, those, like, elf-like people.
Yeah.
Then there's Link, our hero, and, of course, Princess Zelda.
Of course.
And who can forget Ganondorf?
The main man.
Yeah, right.
You just hit on something that's often overlooked, those recurring characters. Think about it.
Yeah.
Even when the games change, new stories, new gameplay.
The hero, the princess, the struggle against evil, it's always there.
That's true.
That familiarity makes players feel grounded, even in a brand new Zelda game.
It's like, you're in good hands.
Right.
Even when you're about to go up against, like, a giant pig-nosed Gerudo king.
Exactly.
The article also mentions multiple timelines and parallel worlds. That's where it gets really interesting.
Right. The Zelda timeline, all those splits, branches, parallel universes, it's what makes the lore so interesting.
It's like Hyrule's history is a tree branching out.
Okay.
With each game exploring a different branch.
So you've got this massive world, memorable characters, a timeline that could rival like the most complex sci-fi epic.
But let's be real, the music is iconic. I mean, who hasn't hummed that main theme?
I know, right? The music in Zelda isn't just, background music. It's a part of the game.
It really is.
Think about Ocarina of Time.
Oh, yeah.
You use music to solve puzzles. You could even travel through time.
That was revolutionary. That game wouldn't be the same without it.
And that's what made it so brilliant. You weren't just playing the game.
You were playing music that, like, directly affected the game world. That was mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It still feels magical.
Okay, the music alone makes Zelda legendary.
It really does.
But we haven't even talked about what it's like to actually play these games.
And that's where the magic happens,
Yeah.
right? When you actually get to be Link in Hyrule.
Exactly.
And this article, I think it does a great job of breaking down the core gameplay that's been finessed over the years.
It's like they found a perfect recipe.
Right.
You've got action, exploration, puzzles.
That feeling of adventure.
Yeah, and each game puts its own spin on it.
Exactly. And look at how they went from that top-down view to, like, Ocarina of Time, these massive 3D landscapes.
Yeah, it's completely different how we see Hyrule now.
I know, it's wild.
Like, you can just wander around and explore however you want.
It's like the difference between, like, looking at a map and then actually going to that place.
Right.
And speaking of exploring, we have to talk about the dungeons.
Oh, yeah.
Legend.
They're not just obstacles either. They're puzzles you have to figure out, each with its own challenges and themes.
I swear, sometimes I need, like, a notebook and a compass to get through them.
But you know what? It's so satisfying when you finally crack the code.
Yeah.
Or when you beat the dungeon boss.
Sure, yeah, those aha moments.
Yes. It's like all worth it.
And they're often tied to, like, some of the coolest gameplay mechanics in Zelda.
Oh, for sure.
Like, the article mentions the lock-on system from Ocarina of Time, revolutionized 3D combat.
Oh, absolutely. Before that, 3D combat was just like swinging and hoping you hit something.
It was awful.
But Z-targeting game changer.
Oh, yeah.
It was like all of a sudden you could focus on an enemy. It made combat like strategic, fluid. You could dodge, time your attacks. And so many games still use it today. It's crazy to think that what we take for granted now was once like groundbreaking.
It just shows you Zelda's always pushing the limits.
Yeah, and they do it while still feeling like Zelda, you know?
Exactly.
And don't even get me started on all the cool items Link gets.
Bombs, boomerangs, hook shots.
It's like a whole utility belt.
I know, right? And each game...
There's new tools, new ways to use them.
Both in combat and exploration.
Exactly, which comes in handy when you're facing those classic Zelda enemies.
Oh, tell me about it.
You got your bokoblins, moblins, those creepy Stalfos.
Well, forget the bosses.
Oh, right.
Those are the real tests.
Those boss battles are where, like, the game's mechanics and level design really come together.
You have to use everything you've learned.
I know. It's not just about, like, hitting something really hard.
No, it's strategy.
Timing.
Using your items the right way.
And don't forget those moments.
When you are one hit away from a game over.
Oh, I know.
Heart-pounding, scrambling for a fairy or a heart piece.
So intense.
Right. It's like the risk versus reward in these games.
You're always on edge, but it feels amazing to come out on top.
Okay, but let's talk about the Zelda timeline.
Oh, yes.
Because this article mentions, like, for years, fans debated the order of these games.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out the chronology of it all.
Trying to make sense of it.
And then Hyrule Historia comes out.
2011.
Finally. An official timeline.
I know. Can you imagine all the theories?
I know.
The dedication it took to try and make a timeline?
I know.
That's how much people love this franchise.
It's true.
And even with the official timeline, there's still some mysteries, right?
Right.
Things left unsaid.
It's like the creators are like, keep theorizing. Keep the conversation going.
Yes. It's what makes Zelda so fun to, like, really dig into.
There's always something new to find, you know?
Exactly. And just when you think you've figured it out...
Breath of the Wild comes out.
Right.
Tears of the Kingdom.
Exactly.
It's like they're in their own little corner of the timeline.
Adding to the mystery.
Exactly.
It's what makes it fun, right?
Right.
Right.
Zelda's not afraid to change things up, experiment.
Keep us guessing.
It's true. Zelda keeps everyone guessing. I mean, that's got to be part of what keeps it fresh, even after all this time.
Yeah, for sure. But it hasn't all been, like, perfect, you know?
Oh, right.
There have been a few bumps along the way.
You're talking about those CDI games, right?
Yeah, those aren't canon.
Link, The Faces of Evil, Zelda, The Wand of Gamelon.
We don't talk about those.
They're infamous.
Yeah, they're kind of infamous among Zelda fans.
To put it lightly.
Yeah, let's just say they're outliers in the franchise.
Black sheep of the family.
Pretty much. But you know what? Even in those games, you can still see what makes Zelda great, you know?
It's true.
Just maybe not the best execution.
They had the ingredients. Something just went wrong in the oven.
Yeah, exactly. But even those games, right?
Yeah.
They've got, like, a cult following.
Right.
It's so strange, but I kind of love it.
It's their weirdness.
They're unique.
You can't keep a good franchise down, I guess.
Exactly. But let's get back to, like, what makes Zelda legendary?
The legacy.
Yes.
The article mentions that it's influenced like so many other games.
Oh, yeah.
And you can totally see why.
For sure. I mean, open world, the environmental puzzles, the combat.
That's like every action-adventure game now.
It's everywhere. And it goes beyond just, like, the mechanics of it, you know?
Oh, totally.
It's the way Zelda makes you feel when you play it.
Right.
That sense of wonder, exploring this big world.
The stories.
Yes.
Even so many developers were inspired by that, and it shows.
I know. I can't tell you how many times I've played a game, and I'm like, this is so Zelda. It's the gold standard for adventure games. Yeah. But it's bigger than games now.
Oh, way bigger.
It's pop culture, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Spin-off games, merchandise. There was, like, a symphony orchestra playing Zelda music.
It's wow.
Everyone wants a piece of Hyrule.
It shows how much this series means to people.
For sure.
It's not just a game anymore.
Right.
It's like this cultural phenomenon.
It really is. So we've talked about the past, the present. What about the future? Echoes of Wisdom is coming out soon.
Yeah, I'm excited.
But what comes after? Where do you see it going?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is.
Do they go back to the classic style?
More dungeons, more items,
right.
Or do they push the boundaries even further?
Yeah, like with that open world.
Right, like Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, that whole style.
I'm excited for anything. I love that classic Zelda.
But they're also so good at innovating.
Exactly.
Trying new things. It's what makes it the Legend of Zelda.
I know, right? It's familiar, but still surprising.
It's nostalgic, but it's also totally new and groundbreaking.
It's really incredible. And I bet it'll be captivating players for years to come.
Well said. As we wrap up our deep dive on The Legend of Zelda,
what are some key takeaways for our listeners today?
I hope they have a new appreciation for Zelda,
The artistry, the creativity.
Yeah.
From those humble beginnings.
To this huge cultural phenomenon.
Zelda's redefined what video games can be.
It's proof that the best stories take us to new places, make us feel something magical.
So true. So the next time you're playing a Zelda game,
Yeah.
remember, it's not just a game, it's a legend.
What will your legend be?